Should parents spank their children? I believe that spanking is a valuable tool in child rearing. James Dobson, evangelical Christian author, psychologist, founder of Focus on the Family, well respected political leader, shares this story. A child who's been asking for it, cutting up for several weeks now. Family decides to go have a nice evening at the restaurant. He takes that opportunity to make his big showdown in the restaurant and throws a tantrum. The father says it's the last straw, takes him to the car, and gives him a spanking. Lady walks up and says, "I'm going to call the police." The child turns around and looks at the father and says, "What's wrong with that lady?" So even the child recognizes that it's an act of love and it's done for his good. The most staggering findings is that a wildly growing increase in medications being prescribed for mental disorders for our children, such as attention deficit disorder, your bipolar disorders, has increased over 1,000% in just the last 2 decades, which tells me that America rather gives their child a pill than a swat. I'm a mother of 5, raised children age ranging from 24 to the age of 4. So you can say I have a lot of experience in the spanking department, as well as I've taught several groups on child rearing as a minister. So today we're going to be talking about my research findings that support spanking and also consequences for those that decide not to spank at all. This has been a half-century-old debate. In the 1950s, corporal punishment was targeted. In the 1970s, it was abolished in the schools. In the 1980s, advocates came together and tried to make it illegal for the parents to even spank their children. The year before that, Sweden had banned spanking entirely. That generation of kids suffered the consequences. There was a 6-fold increase in criminal assaults, juvenile delinquency, and substance abuse. And so the debate kept brewing in our nation. And so finally, the American Association of Pediatrics came together and convened in a 2-day conference, deciding what the guidelines were for effective child rearing. So you had your anti-spanking and your pro-spanking professionals coming together, and the conference ended in a draw. And then they published it in a journal. So the truth was that they found out that spanking was an effective method for child rearing within a loving context. But several professionals admitted that they didn't put it within the journal, afraid that they would be accused of supporting abuse, afraid they would be open to criticism. You have one that's named Diana Bauman, who's a highly respected psychologist, who's the lady who actually first initiated parenting styles, who initially was against anti-spanking until she did a 15-year study over a family and decided that corporal punishment, spanking, within a loving context proved to be better for those children than those that did not spank at all. And then we have our police officer who was on the force for over 18 years, who also wrote a book called No Fear, A Police Officer's Perspective. He interviewed hundreds of families of violent juvenile offenders, determining that most of the children were from homes that received no corporal punishment and no spanking. And then finally, we have our Creator's intention. Proverbs 22:15 says, "Foolishness is bound up in the heart of the child, and it is the rod that drives it far from him." And then we have the old classic, Proverbs 13:24, that says, "You spare the rod, you spoil the child." Now, I'm not advocating for abuse, but discipline within the loving context of a home, so that we won't create juvenile delinquents and medication-dependent children. I'll leave you with this. Suppose 2-year-old Peter pulls on a tablecloth, and there's a vase of roses sitting on there, and the vase comes down and it cracks him right between the eyes. From this pain, he learns not to pull on the tablecloth again. He touches a hot stove. He realizes that he has to respect heat. Over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, he accumulates bumps and bruises and scrapes, all teaching him life's boundaries. The pain associated with these events helps him to avoid making those same mistakes again. God created this mechanism as a valuable vehicle for instruction. Thank you.